So we've been talking about sampling and surveying, and once you've collected unbiased data, you need to be able to display it somehow. That's what we're going to talk about today. There's lots of different graphs and different ways you could display data, but each type is typically best for a specific kind of data. For instance, a circle graph would really be best used in a situation when you want to compare parts of a whole. Maybe you want to compare how many hours you spend doing different activities in each day. So the whole is the day, and the parts are going to be how many hours you're sleeping, how many hours you're in school, how many hours you're video gaming, etc. The three types that we're going to talk about today, though, are bar graphs, histograms, and line graphs. Bar graph, make sure you copy it on your target before you get started here. Bar graphs are typically best when you're using data in categories. And it helps to organize the data in a frequency table first. When you do a bar graph, you want to make sure you label the axes and label a title. And then you want to make sure the bars are all evenly spaced and also in even width. Let's take a look at this first example. Organize the data into a frequency table and make a bar graph. Ms. Huff polled her students, asking them the number of hours per day each student spent on an electronic device, whether it be a cell phone, television, video games, etc. And these are the responses that I got in one day, how many hours they spend on any sort of technology. So the frequency table is going to make doing the bar graph really quick, okay? So I'm going to do number of hours, and then I'm going to put frequency over here. And all frequency is just how many times that data value occur. So all the different results I have span from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're just going to tally them and put them in our frequency table. 0 only occurred once. 1 occurred 1, 2, twice. 2 occurs 1, 2, twice as well. 3, 4 times. 4, no times, and 5 times. Once you have the frequency table, making the bar graph is going to be a lot quicker because we'll be able to just look right over and see exactly how tall our bars should be. Like I said, you always want to label, you should title and label your axes. So this is going to be Miss Huff's class, and it's going to be like a hours per day on electronics, or electronic hours, maybe we'll say. Try to be descriptive in your title. It doesn't have to be, 3 sentences long, but you want to know in general what I'm talking about here. The frequency will be your y-axis, and the frequency you want to span to how high you need to go. So when you look over here, the highest number I see is 5. Then I'm going to space this out evenly so that I get up to 5. I don't want 5 being all the way down here, but I don't want it being all the way up here. So space it out accordingly. And then on the bottom is going to be the different categories. The category down here, though, is going to be number of hours. Your bars should not be touching, so they should have a little bit of gap between each one. So here will be my 0 hours. Then I'll leave a space. Here will be my 1 hour, these 2 hours, my students who responded with 3 hours, my students who responded with 4 hours, which will be none, but that's okay. You should leave that space there anyways. And then my students who responded with 5 hours. When you draw your bars, try to space them out evenly. I found that if I do this first, it really helps. So one student said they spent 0 hours. That's hard. I couldn't even say that. 2 students spent 1 hour. Now you can use a ruler to make your bar graph nice and neat. That would be best. But try to just draw really nice straight lines. 2 students also said 2 hours. 3, I had 4. 4, I had 0, and 5, I had 5. So again, if you have a ruler, use it. It'll make it a lot neater. Just a little more time consuming for me to do that. There's a bar graph, guys. Again, the bars should not be touching. You need to have labels on your X and Y axes and a title and make all the bars equal width. You can decorate them if you'd like. I know some students like to put polka dots on them or whatever, but that's not necessary. All right, so a cumulative frequency table allows you to keep a running total of the number of data values in or below a certain interval. So I'm going to do a cheat here, and I want you to copy the frequency table that we just had. I'm going to take a picture of this frequency table right here. We're going to just change this frequency table into a cumulative frequency table. So the way we're going to do that is that's going to be the first two columns, and we're just going to add one more to it. So here's the start of mine, okay? I have number of hours and the frequency, and then you just add one more column to it, and that's going to be the cumulative frequency. What you do in a cumulative frequency table is you keep a running total of all the number of data values in or below each interval. So for instance, all the students who answered 0 or less hours would be 1. Then this next number right here is going to come from all the students who answered 0 to 1 hour. So it would be this answer plus this one, so it would be 3. Then the cumulative frequency at the level of 2 hours would be all the students who answered 0, 1, or 2 hours. So you can keep adding all of these up. Or if you had a lot of values, what you could do is take this number here, add it to the new one, and get your total there. So 3 plus 2 is 5. For the next one, all the students who answered 3 or less hours, 5 plus 4 is 9. All the students who answered 4 or less hours, well, that's still going to be 9, because it would be 9 plus 0. And then all the students who answered 5 or less hours would be a total of 14 students. The nice thing about a cumulative frequency table is that the last number is always the total. So if you wanted to look at maybe where a certain percentage of the data lies, you can look at the total and figure out the percentage easily. You know, when I look at 14 is close to 15. So I could say at this point, about 33% of the data, or 1/3 of my class, spends less than or equal to 2 hours on technology. So it's a nice thing with the total is that you can see a certain percentage lies below a specific interval. I could say 2/3 of the class spend less than or equal to 4 hours of their day on technology. Okay, so it's just like a regular frequency table. You just add one more column, and that shows the running total. The next type of graph is a histogram, and a histogram is a bar graph, but it displays data grouped in intervals, which is like ranges, okay? So you should always do ranges of something. Typically, a lot of times it's like ranges of time. Because we want to show that this is a bar graph, but it's a little bit different, here the bars are touching. Your first interval should lead you right into your next interval, and that's why I want the bars to be touching. So just like a bar graph, but instead of just categories, you're going to have categories of time or categories of amount of money, things like that. So let's create a histogram here. Dylan surveyed 12 of his friends and asked how much money they received from the tooth fairy. And these are the results that he found. Well, here's the money, here's the frequency. We wouldn't want to make a bar graph here because we have a lot of different answers, right? We don't want to create that many different bars. So a histogram would be better because we can break the money into categories. When you do this, your intervals need to be even. Okay, you can't have 10 numbers here or $3 here and then $1 here. We need to span it evenly. I like to start with 0 and I like to go up until the point where I have like 99 cents. And that way the next category can start with $1 and that'll take me up to $1.99. And then $2 and then $2.99. However you choose to create your intervals, I would look to see that you want to end up having at least 3 bars, but you really probably don't want more than 10 bars when you're creating your graph. So when I look at this data, the lowest number I see is 25 cents, and the highest number I see is about $3.50. So I need to keep going and have 3 to 399. This will give me 4 bars in my histogram. I think that's pretty good. However you decide to choose your intervals, try to keep a pattern. You know, I wouldn't start this at 52 cents and go to 78 cents. That's going to be hard to keep track of. So start it at an integer and go up to the highest decimal for the next integer. That's my suggestion. All right, so let's tally up this frequency table here. Between less than a dollar, 1, 2, 3, 4 values. Between $1 and $1.99, I'm going to have 2 values. Between $2 and $2.99, I'm going to have 2 values. And then the rest are in my 3 range, 1, 2, 3. So again, we'll have our number of responses here, or number of his friends, you could even say. And this is going to be Jimmy's Tooth Fairy survey. And then the categories across the bottom is going to be the money. So we're going to have ranges down here. Give yourself some room to write these ranges. I like to take a diagonal line. I need 4 bars. And that way I can really write that dollar amount in there. So this is going to be 0 to 99 cents. This is going to be $1 to $1.99. 2 to $2.99. I think the prices have probably gone up for the Tooth Fairy by now. Perfect. Now we're ready to get started. We look at our frequency. We need it going up to at least 4. And again, try to evenly space it. Your bars are going to be touching here, so start it right on the x-axis, or right on the y-axis. My first bar has a height of 4, so it's going to come right off of this y-axis. All right, that's not very even. I'm going to draw it again. Okay, my second bar and my third bar are both going to be 2s, which is nice. My pen is not working today. There we go. And then we need to split that. And then my last category has 3, so go up a little bit higher. When you look at your histogram at the end, the bars should be touching, the bars should also be of equal width. So try to keep that pretty straight. I'm going to do this last example in a second video just so that I don't rush in these last 2 minutes. Go ahead on to the next one.